It is 12:05.
Yeah, I hear it.
You can do that.
Took me a minute to understand. When you laughed, and I got it.
No,
Apologies.
she's here this
I think
morning.
that's all.
Is there some reason she's not here?
No, but I'll email her and I'll start taking minutes.
Well, I have to have.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is 12:05. My apologies for starting a few minutes late. If we could have roll call.
I don't have a list of who's on the committee with me, but I think I know everybody here except for this gentleman. who's
Okay, so
Just visiting.
Well, here we go.
I got a list.
You have a list?
So,
All right.
Chairman McCoy, I'm present. Lorraine Boudet here. Mark Hellig,
Here.
Gary Hildendorf,
Not here.
Andy. I'm sorry. You're last present, okay. Jeff Johnson,
No.
Tweet Schuman,
Here.
Doug Morotek,
Here.
Lisa Pocat, Katie Bellinger, Ryan Reed, John Yackel, Elaine Smith, you with her? Marshall Sabinsky. Do we have a forum? Six. Don't.
I don't think so.
We got Mr. Waller here sitting for the jailer Johnson.
Yeah. He'd be the Jeff today.
Okay, so you do Jeff today, so,
It's just, I know Jeff is the vice chair. Jeff is resigning from his position here, so
yeah,
yes.
it was approved already and everything. Did you submit a letter?
Yes.
What is that?
So, and I'm sorry, your name, sir?
Mike Waller, WOLL.
So you're gonna be replacing the lieutenant then on the committee or?
Temporarily.
Then we would have a forum. if you accept.
Will we have to do a vice chair thing and since he's resigned?
We should put that on the agenda for next time.
Next time, right? Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I think,
Future
we can
agenda.
talk about that under our bylaws because it does specifically name who is going to be on the committee and it is the jail administrator. So Jeff is the jail administrator.
And Sergeant Waller is the interim jail administrator.
So you would still have a title of jail administrator.
He does.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that's something we may want to address in our bylaws, just to clean up that language, but of course, we won't be able to amend our bylaws again in this meeting because we don't have the necessary quorum. Okay, with that, we do have a quorum. Thank you, and if you could rise for the pledge. The pledge of allegiance.
To the flags of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Meeting law, I assume that is correct. Compliant.
Yes, it's been posted and we're in compliance.
Okay. And the meeting agenda, is there anything anybody would like to add or move around on the agenda? If not, we'll move on to public comments. We do have a couple members of the public here. Would either of you like to make any comments?
Yeah, I'm Barry Hill. I was the first citizen volunteer on this committee 5 years ago, and then I moved away from town. So I'm just curious how you've progressed. Glad to be here.
Good to have you here.
There's more people would show up.
Yeah.
Did you have any comments or nothing? Okay. The next thing would be approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. I believe everybody has had a copy of them.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes in the last meeting.
Second,
Motion to approve the minutes as printed. Any discussion? All in favor?
I,
Hi.
I'm just gonna abstain because I wasn't here.
Okay. one abstention. Motion carries. Presentation of Northwood Tech Literary Link. I think we have someone with us. Are they online, Mike, or?
No.
Well, we were supposed to have a presentation.
And Andy, what is this? What is Northwoods Tech Literacy Link? No idea.
No idea, sorry.
So that's why we were gonna have the presentation, so we all found out. Yeah.
We must have invited.
Well, we do, right, I have here,
Literacy, it's literacy through for the
Yeah.
jail.
right, for the jail, right, yeah.
Oh,
It's
Link.
for, services through break, GED, HSCD and
okay.
educational and.
I was hearing, and they
Job
wanted to come, they were the ones who requested to come to our meeting, put them on the agenda,
That I had.
yeah.
Sounds good, though. That's what we need.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, they've been-
sounded very
they've been
excited about
active for
coming
quite a-
to,
Yeah,
Quite a few
yeah,
years.
to say that it's been happening. So
Yeah.
that's good, that's very good.
I guess we can get a hold of them, I have their contact information and see if we can get them on for next month. Establishment of a drug court update, is Becky with us today?
No, Becky emailed this morning indicating that she would not be able to be here today. I guess I can give her a little update from her email, though. The DAD pre-application was submitted on August 19th. And we received an email last week asking for additional information. She had that submitted yesterday, the additional information. We expect to hear something by the end of October, maybe actually sooner than that, as to the likelihood of getting funded. There's going to be a final application, but they seem to have indicated that we'll know when we submit the final application if we're going to get funding. We were able to sort out that last month's meeting, we talked about what criteria we were going to submit the grant application under. And we did meet with Judge Cjcc after the meeting, got his blessing to move ahead with getting the drug court started so we could apply under the drug court operation provision, which had more money in it. So Becky is working with the judge and others now to get drug court up and running by January 1. So it'll be I would say a skeleton and maybe not real active, but it will be established and should start to see participants in the first quarter of 2022, or excuse me, 23.
And I just wanted to add, I really wanted to thank Judge Smith for stepping up and volunteering to get that up and running in light of that Judge Cjcc did not want to do it at that time. I really think you were catalyst in moving us forward with that, and I really thank you for being willing to do that. It made a huge difference. So I, for one, am very grateful.
Yes.
It's nice that we're gonna be able to move forward, and I'm very glad that the judge is now on board with getting it set up and not waiting until we get a second judge and wasting the grant money that we
Yep.
would. So the other thing, when I talked to Becky, she had indicated the DOJ had come back to her with perhaps some additional funding for a commissioner to get started and several other positions that she thought she might be able to secure some grant funding. That was on the last call you were on with
Yep.
Julia.
Mhm.
So that was good news. So we may be able to get some additional funding by getting up and running, even beyond the CAD grant that we were originally seeking. So she was very excited, and I think it's moving forward with that as well.
Good.
Yeah. Good one. Andy, so this is gonna be budget neutral for 23 then, this drug court?
That's
With
like,
the funding Kathy's talking about and ad grant.
as of right now, with what we applied for, we had to match this year's grant
Yep.
with money that was in the budget, and that money's budgeted. We put that money in the budget for 2023 as well,
Match what we're getting.
to match the
Same as before.
that's correct.
So that's good news. I mean, I think it's really good, and I'm really glad that Judge Apple is now on board, and we can move forward with that and get the maximum funding that we can. So it's very nice. I put the next thing timeline for CJCC recommendations to the county board for the opioid settlement funds. I know they're getting into the budget stuff, and we need to come up with a recommendation that what we want to see that money used for. I don't know, public health, they're not here today either, are they?
No, they asked to come in October instead of,
Okay, Because we're talking about help, to see what they kind of had planned. I know I talked a little bit to Andy about, what's the timeline? I know the board's getting anxious to hear something from us. So,
Yeah, I think in a couple things regards to that. I think we might have been a little bit of ahead of ourselves, or maybe pushing ourselves to get there. A lot of the other counties have talked about where they're spending their money, but there was just the Wisconsin Counties Association had their opioid conference a couple weeks ago in Stevens Point for all the counties to come learn. So there were most of the counties I imagine had somebody there. I went for lack of anybody else going from Sawyer County, and everybody's still in the decision-making process as to how they're going to utilize their opioid funding. I think, like I said, a lot of them had planned to use it on drug courts or existing programs, but the summit basically highlighted that the Wisconsin County Association has started up their own opioid research or learning center, or however you want to call it, resource center. So I shared that with our public health people and with Becky. They have some resources online. And then the National Association of Counties was there and did some presentations on the research they've done to assist counties in determining how best to utilize their opioid funding. So it was everything from existing programs, medical assisted treatment options, different types of recovery. So, I mean, the things they were sharing were still very preliminary. And then they're generating some discussion. They're trying to generate discussions on how counties or different programs can get together and do some cooperative or regional things as well. So they intend to keep following up on that information and making it available to counties.
Yeah, good question, Randy. Andy, how much, number one, how much money are we talking? And then number two, are all the counties gonna take that lump sum up front, or are they gonna take the payments over?
Most of the counties are still have their name in that they're interested. Probably won't have to sign on, like commit to it until closer to the end of the year. The counties I've talked to in our area, 50-50. Best, I mean, those that are going to take the money up front, or those that are going to take it over the so much a year for 16 years. Thought process is, I think some of the bigger counties where you have a lot of money at one time, you can actually do something with. I mean, we're talking about our total is, and I fudge these numbers every time, but let's just say it's $450,000. If we got a lump sum up front, it would be less than 300,000. Be significantly less. If we take the money over the 16 years, we're looking at $25,000 a year. So the smaller counties are looking at just taking the money on an annual basis as a sustaining income that can be allocated every year for the purpose that they've designated it for. To me, the one concern that's probably out there for everybody is that if any of these companies that have settled the lawsuits go bankrupt, then the payment could go away. But the feedback we've gotten is that's a pretty low probability. Not out of the question, but it's, I mean, taking the lump sum up front secures your settlement, and you don't have to worry about anybody going bankrupt then.
And isn't there more payments coming too? I mean, there's.
Potentially, there's more lawsuits to be settled, and but we have not gotten any indication of how much it's going to be. I guess they've said this amount that's been settled on is probably the largest amount that we'll get. You shouldn't expect to get.
this was the Wisconsin.
Correct. Well, there's other states involved, but this was the one Wisconsin had settled on.
Is this only one company out of, or is this a conglomeration?
There's one conglomeration of distributors, and then Johnson & Johnson is the current settlement.
I was gonna ask, Tara, when do we have to have a decision in as far as lump sum or?
They have not given us this is the date, but towards the end of the year is what they've said.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask. How many counties? How was that data? How was it gathered? And that was the thing. So it was put forth, like the numbers that were used, the population that was used, whatever. How was that submitted? Do you know?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. I mean, the settlement was a per capita settlement, so the amount we're getting is a per capita.
Is that for the whole state of Wisconsin?
I can email you. There's a sheet that shows how much everybody that was part of the settlement is getting in Wisconsin. We have that.
Per population.
For population.
Yeah,
72 counties.
nope, 70 or 71.
Okay.
But there was also some municipalities that were included. I want to say Polk County was one that did not. Involved.
I know tribes are getting settlement too.
I'm just curious because, you heard one figure at one time. And then when the actual settlement's coming through now, it's way low.
Yeah, at one time, Sawyer County was in the $700,000 range. And then it went down into this 470, 450 amount.
And the reason I ask those questions is because with the tribe and the county here, how many people we lost to opioid epidemic, what it was, the crisis that was happening,
Mhm.
it's still happening, but the amount of deaths that we've had, Indian and non-Indian both, and within our county, our people. So I was just curious how they gather that data, because what I'm seeing now at the state and federal level is how is that data being captured and who is reporting what, whatever, because we gotta make sure we get the right data. So we get the right,
Yeah.
but we're way beyond that now, because now we're
Yeah.
just part of the money that's coming forward now, but it just the amount, because we have a strong need here. We have a strong need in our community.
Yeah, as far as like my own interpretation of what I've seen during the course of this lawsuit and the settlement is that impact or deaths was not a
It was not even considered.
not as far as the distribution of the money.
Hmm.
I mean,
That's typical with class action suit, though.
Yeah.
I mean, class action suit isn't based on those criteria, it's based on how many people file for that class action suit, and then it's divvied up to however many people that were involved in the class action. So that's typically how a class action suit.
as a anecdotal, I'd be curious about your question, just because, so I've heard the impact in Sawyer County.
Mm.
And if you pull up like our coroner records to, causes of death, you don't. I mean, it's not catching it there, because I've gone back on those and it doesn't say, drug death or opioid death or anything that would be distinguishable, at least what I've seen. So I don't know where that information is actually
It-
captured.
You
That's
think
not-
that it's stored, yeah.
That
The
was-
I mean, it's in there, but it doesn't show that there's this large
that was the
amount of
big
deaths.
problem when we started, is that nobody put on adjustment to take it overdose or whatever, whatever. So they had to go back and try to rule out every other criteria to come up with what they could have criteria for that they consider to be opiate actual deaths, and it was a long tedious process.
Probably not unlike
Millions of records to
Like
distinguish. them.
COVID deaths.
But they did, I mean, that's why the feds stopped.
Yeah. And what year did it go back to? I can't remember. That's sorry.
Sorry, that's what on the death certificate.
No, I think, but that's the debate is that they divide COVID or they divide.
Yeah, COVID kind of screwed some people too.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that
A lot of veterans, it thinks
Yeah.
that there's
muddles
stuff
the
because
waters.
even though,
Anyway.
No, I hear you, I hear you.
But I think that'd be a good data to have, and then something else here for the other things we're working on is, okay, this is how many people are death rate because of opioids before. When we start doing things, are we able to watch something to see that it's helping the problem, or is the problem exists?
Yeah, I think we got like. There's a problem that we got.
Yeah, exactly.
Andy, are you and the CFO looking at how are we using that money in our budget? Because didn't we already receive a payment,
We received, it's in a lockbox.
an annual payment of 20,000?
We received one payment, we'll probably get another one before the end of the year. That money has to be used for the designated opioid purposes.
Right.
So we have just set that money in the segregated account. It's not budgeted in any way.
Yep.
Just.
And the finance committee and the county board is waiting for a recommendation from Cjcc.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep, and that's what I was saying is I think we were trying to get a recommendation, but we're also not under any deadline outside of the deadline that there's a problem that we need to address.
So having public health for next month and the data has quite a bit of detailed,
Yeah, and that might be another comment is, when at the summit and elsewhere, you start to, and I know we've had conversations here about aftercare or medical treatment or mental health treatment in the jail. The thing that I would stress, and they stress at the summit is, and you, I don't know, help me out if I muddle this terminology, but evidence-based methodologies.
Yeah.
Not throwing money to the wind necessarily, but
Yep.
putting money into things that have a track record of having success or that can be measured.
Yeah.
Right. So I think in our organization, I would say at this point, public health is the best position. They've been researching this and surveying the community to find out what support and treatments are available locally, where there might be gaps, and taking in information from outside as to what would be successful or best investments that the county can make to address the problem. And that's what we've invited them to come present on. They said they'll be ready next month to do that.
And the public health has their own money too, right? They can apply for it.
The state
Over
had,
and above this.
yeah, over and above this, the state,
Yeah.
the money that's being distributed to the counties and municipalities is 75% of the settlement. 25% is at the state. And that was something else that they presented at the conference, is that DHS at the state has put together a plan of how they're going to distribute that money. And they'll be competitive, or it'll fund public health programs. But the competitive portion, public health or anybody else actually could submit applications to their various buckets that they've set aside. That plan for the state right now is been stopped. It's being held at joint finance. And then once it's through joint finance, it'll be put into action.
All right, so I think we will put that on the agenda for next month. Their update, and also then we'll put on discussion and possible action of our recommendations at that point. But we need to hear from public. So,
Yeah.
I think what we did is we had a small group meeting with Becky, Kathy, Julia, and her team to kind of, rather than discuss it as a big group here, but started at a smaller level, develop it, bring it to here, then it can go on.
Julie was gonna work with multi agencies like Earth Lakes and other mental health providers, kind of to get more of a comprehensive, yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming here that we should have a conversation with LCO
Yep.
to see if there's some joint things that you
Yep.
guys are work on and make it more, make a better investment for the
Yep.
community.
Moving forward, we have the RISE 2022 conference update. Beth Smith, I think you attended, correct?
Did you hear me?
You have a,
Judge Smith, do you have anything to report on the RISE 2022 conference?
oh, we should hear you.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I am, sorry.
I can barely hear you, but I think Becky was going to be reporting on that.
Becky's not with us today. Do you want to share a little insight? Because I know you attended too.
Well, from my perspective, the conference was a great success. They had a record number of people attending. 8,000 people attended.
Oh,
And I mean, it got to the point where you were waiting for almost an hour in line just to get served at a restaurant. So it had its downside too. But they had just so many different presentations that you could attend depending on what track you wanted to go to, that you really had to plan well. And what we did was we split up, and certain people would go to one and somebody else would go to the other, and then we would get together and talk about what we learned or what we saw. And one of the things for the LCO community is that there was a presenter. He goes by Tall Cop. His name is Jermaine Galloway, and he does this presentation called Hiding in Plain Sight. And I think it was 2019 I saw him for the first time, and I came in towards the tail end of his presentation and it was just packed. And he gives you a lot of good information of what's going on the street, how people are hiding these drugs, and they just look like ordinary objects. And so this time I was determined that I was going to get there early So I made my way down to wherever the meeting was held, down in the lower level, and I think this room had to be almost as big as a football field, and it was totally packed with people. And they were sitting on the floor, they were standing up, they were hauling in more chairs. And a lot of the information he gave was to tell us about the THC additives that are being sold in the gas stations, and people not really understanding how harmful they could be to you. And a lot of meth users, I guess, when they're trying to get off of meth, they will use one of these products because they get like a similar high, and sometimes these products themselves can be very addictive. So we're going to use part of our grant, and he's coming to do a webinar for our community on October 3rd, the evening of October 3rd at the casino. So if you are interested, I'm sure that we have space for you if you'd like to come and hear his presentation. But we're not going to be serving any dinner or anything. It's just going to be the presentation itself and maybe some refreshments, but that's all we're planning. But I really hope that we get a good turnout of the community, because, and then we've already set a date with him for the summer of 2023 for him to come back and do a live presentation. He's quite engaging.
So
But as I said, it was a very positive experience. I was disappointed that Judge Yackel decided not to go. And I think he would have gotten a lot out of it. I think the first time, though, you are a little overwhelmed because there are so many people and there's so many selections. And I know that Becky really enjoyed it, that she got a lot out of it.
So what time on the 3rd is the event occurring? What time?
What was that again?
What time on the 3rd is the event at the casino? What time?
Oh, it's going to be, let's see if I can get this date time right. I think at 5:30. We wanted to wait until people were finished with work and maybe have their little ones fed dinner. And so that's the time that I think we chose. Scott Johnson of our office is really kind of spearheading it. So I'll check with him, but I'm pretty sure the time is 5:30.
Great. And maybe if you could send Lynn an email about it, just so she could send it out to all the committee members.
Sure, I could do that.
That'd be wonderful.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Criminal Justice Coordinator Becky is not with us today.
Hang on, she did send in some numbers though as to where they're at. I'll put up on the screen. Big board. And make it bigger so you can read it. So let's see here. She says that pretrial numbers are steadily climbing, and once again, they are at capacity. They are filing overcapacity memos with the court this week for any pretrial referrals. As pretrial cases are sentenced, that will open up more spots and they can take on more pretrial cases. And they're continuing to take diversion cases. So the numbers, June 8th, they were at 94 and 16. Then they were up to 113 and 10 diversion cases. And then up to 118 as of August. That's so now they're up to 130 pretrial cases.
Do you know off the top of your head, I don't, what is the number they're contracted for?
I don't know that.
I can't remember because
No.
we were always exceeding it for a long time, and then they added the additional staff.
Mhm.
I don't know if we're still exceeding it or not.
No, that number comes in my head for some reason. I know it's a lot less than that though.
That's something maybe we'll have to discuss.
Yeah.
This, how far over we're getting again, because that was a problem before.
Right, yes, I do.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Community service updates, Gary's not with us today. Here he is. I know things over at the men's house are going well still. Their shop is almost completed. I do know that. Kind of peeked at it. I haven't really gone over and walked through it as such, but it's running, and I know they still have a couple people on the wait list, so things are going well. Women's shelter seems to have a lot higher turnover and not quite as much success long term, it seems like. And I don't know, and I should talk to Gary about it. They're using mentors, obviously, in the men's house, and I don't think they're necessarily using mentors over at the women's shelter. And the mentors seem to be a huge key in
Right.
success long term. So something that, you know, I can discuss with Gary, or something that we should think about, even in just in terms of treatment in general, because the mentor program seems to be what really does work for people.
Kind of like sponsors.
Yeah, exactly. And not having them removed from the community, but being a part of the community throughout the process.
You know, Kathy, if those shelters are at capacity.
The
I mean,
men's, the men's has,
they're turning
waiting,
people
right,
away.
the men's House of Hope is,
Yeah.
they've been turning people, well, they're not turning away, they're
They're
putting them on a
waiting
wait list, right?
Oh,
And the women's has not been full. So,
You know how
We
many,
have 3 shelters, right, for the tribe,
Just.
2 women's, 1 abused women.
Yeah.
so are
Women-
they selected?
No,
they're not, the men's shelter seems to be more.
Yeah.
At capacity, but the emergency shelter, no, it's called, it's for women and families. That kind of fluctuates.
So do you have to be tribal in order to go into those shelters?
I know we've taken some, not many people, but more of them are tribal members.
yeah.
I'm just wondering if you got open slots and there are people that need that
Needs that
service.
Percent.
Do we want to necessarily be distinguishing that they have to be tribal? I mean, that's a resource in our community, and we need those resources, you know, we've talked about that, it's the big picture of everybody, so I don't know if that's in policy somewhere,
Hard
or
to find out for sure.
it'd be nice to know, I
Yep.
mean, because if they're just sitting in a spot that people could go into,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, you know,
I got a question, kind of like on the same
Mhm.
line on that. I saw a commercial last night about a center that LCO has. Like a opioid center or something out there, and I can't remember what it was, but and my question was, is that can be used by outside people also, or can it be, I shouldn't say all. Yeah. Can it be used, is it just for reserved people?
I'm not sure what you're
Yeah, I wish I
referring
would.
to.
Like-
We don't have one
If
specific.
I see that commercial, I'll take a picture.
Yeah, so we have the Cjcc Wellness Center, but we don't have another specifically opioid,
Well, yeah, I did, yeah, I just kind of use that as an
yeah.
example,
I
because
don't
we
think
talked
it-
about having counselors, I think, and so on.
That sounds more of Cjcc.
that sounds like the Ziggy,
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
could bring us back next week.
Yeah,
there's a
well,
call next
it's,
month, that would be great. 'Cause
the
then we can
wording,
Put a little
yeah.
update on it, update on the LCO shelter policy,
Yeah.
regarding non-native, individuals.
Yep.
That would be great.
Yeah, and what'd you call it, the Ziki?
Cjcc Wellness Center.
Yeah,
The
wellness
Ziggy
center.
Wellness Center, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
it's only
that's
tribal.
It's only tribal. Cause that's the big thing that my push is a wellness center in our area, so they don't have to go.
Yeah.
Eau Claire or Ashland or Duluth.
Well, that's what we had hoped, but with our
Yeah.
opioid settlement, we're not gonna run a shelter or build a building.
No, but
If there are things available. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's one of the reasons why I was kind of irritated at the fact that, I mean, our HS people or whatever have been in this building for years, and all of a sudden they had to take over the facility down there that could have possibly been used for that.
I have just a question for, you're a lieutenant too, right?
No, I'm a sergeant. in
Oh,
jail.
Sergeant, okay, I'm sorry, I gotta get used to it, my son, same lieutenant. you know, we did have a presentation about, Pathways Home Program, you know, and they had a few people from the Sawyer County Jail. Do you know, is that getting pushed more in the Sawyer County Jail? I mean, they had a goal of 200 participants and they only were at 38, so there were all these resources available for people coming out of jail to try to hook them up, you know.
He's still frequenting the jail. He comes in quite often, or not quite often. Him and Becky set that up, and then Becky does scheduling, so he definitely is still coming in the jail, so.
To try to use, it's like there's resources sitting there and nobody's using them, right? So. Well, Sawyer County, we could use. Right, try to
Yeah.
get-
But he can jump in here, but is Mark Stoner, they're still.
Yep.
Still
Mark
coming in
Stoner,
and
they're in
meeting
a-
with them and trying to catch them too as they're leaving. You know what I mean, trying to. When they're coming back out in the community and,
Oh, yep,
yeah,
yep, yep.
and they're trying to gauge them so that they don't. Get hit by somebody else.
Yep.
All right, so then the next thing we have is the CJCC bylaws, and, you know, we had made some recommendations that we wanted to add, obviously, health and human service representative. We do have Sawyer County Jail Administrator. Do you think we should change that to Sawyer County Jail Administrator or designee or something like that, so that we would be covered?
That would be good, I think, if we could do that.
I
Yeah,
think so.
Because I mean, that way we can accommodate sergeant or anybody else who you may choose, Doug, that. you
I think
would
that's the
be-
way it is with me, the sheriff or designee.
It does say that they're for designee, that's correct, so maybe that's something that we could look at changing also, is to say, the word designee.
Jail administrator or designee.
Yeah,
and on the current bylaw, we don't have the,
health and human service, and that was why we wanted to amend it, we all agree with
Okay.
that, but we need to have a
Yeah.
third majority in order to do that, and we don't have a quorum that today yet, so,
Yeah.
that will have to go on for next month, and with those two changes, to add a health and human service and to add, put it as a knee after the other one, so that we can accommodate, jail personnel who are vital to this committee, so. The other thing I looked at too, because we do have a new person who is a citizen at large or a resident in Sawyer County, the way our current bylaws read is that, basically, once you're appointed, you're here, these are permanent appointments, in other words, until you would be resigned. I mean, because they're made up of the structure of different elements, you know, the judge, the this, the that, so they're not like 2-year terms or whatever. I don't know if anybody wanted to consider, doing something with term limits for the people who are the representatives at large, those two positions. I'm just throwing it out there. It could get sticky because if everybody else is a standing committee member,
unless you're kicked off by the committee.
can be kicked off by the committee.
I read
That is
that.
correct.
Yeah, that is in there.
So that is-
Yeah, there
so
was
I
a
guess
vote for them.
if you want to take the job and, you know,
I think that, let's go with that as long as that's in there, and if we have a member who has poor attendance, we can address it accordingly.
And that's what it's
Yeah,
yes, and that's where it is in there,
Yeah.
right? They don't tell us how many meetings, they don't do whatever.
3 or more meetings or have.
you know, I do wanna comment on it. The times that I cannot be here. Is when I have to be at the state or national level. It's because of those duties I have. Otherwise, I'll be here.
Yeah.
I just wanna make that known because there's a couple meetings I missed now.
Yeah.
And those things
Are
happen.
they consistent monthly?
We never know. When we get called, we have to go. When we have those certain roles with the leadership, then we have to attend those meetings when we travel.
Yeah, not really consistent.
No, it's not. But I know our meeting is. The buildings aren't, so sometimes you get
Yep.
back and so we gotta go. That's all bad.
And I think we really need to work at trying to get somebody from the public defender's office, you know, Ryan Reed, I know is in a bad accident. I don't know how we can go to reach out and find out what's going on there, because I would love to have him back, but we need to fill that spot too, you know, when we have people who can't be here for long periods of time, it puts us in a bind, right?
And Katie
what
from
did it say,
P and
Marty?
P is beneficial too.
What?
Katie from P
That
and
was
P
the other
is very
thing, right,
beneficial.
exactly. I haven't seen her in.
I'll reach out to her. Yeah, I will. Yep.
Can't do that. You know how I forget you. Oh, sorry. Oh, Judge, does it say or designate on his?
No, and we discussed that at the last meeting, and I think, we felt it was critical that it remain with the judge. That was the consensus of the committee at that
Thank you.
time.
No, that was.
So
I don't know.
there's not much we can do about that.
No,
But anyway, I think we'll put that on for next month, and hopefully we'll have more people. I wonder if people got mixed up, because I actually thought it was next week, not this week.
oh, I got screwed up on the public safety. I thought it was
So
this
the
week.
date being different than what they normally are, so. Future agenda items. Future agenda items, does anybody have anything? I mean, next month we will have help with their research update. I will try to reach out to the Northwest.
Link.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the tribes opioid month and possible collaboration or resources?
Along with this, maybe back up to the bylaws. I think, as we have kind of a big group for CJCC relative to a lot of committees. I personally think it's important we start breaking things down into work groups to get things more accomplished than coming here and trying to hash them all out. So I'm trying to come up with, we've kind of already done some of this. The TAD drug court inherently is going to have its own work group once that's up and running. And, it's going to involve the DA, the judge. These aren't, it's kind of, these people are their designees. Hopefully, though, it's the actual DA and the judge and the sheriff. Justice Point and mental health, opioids. We've kind of separated out some people that are going to work on putting together a proposal to hear. And then courthouse security. I don't know, Sheriff. I'm pretty sure the district court requires a courthouse security meeting. I know the judge hasn't done one of those in a while. But I think that's a good group that can report to CJC. It only needs to be a quarterly meeting. Usually you get together and see if there's any incidents that need to be reviewed or any issues. I think maybe with the construction project, a lot of that's being addressed, and then maybe a data committee, but it gets difficult to come here and discuss these things once a month with not a whole lot happening in between. So I think some smaller work groups would be beneficial, or subcommittees or whatever you want to call them. And these are just my ideas, and
No,
probably
I
some other
think
ones in there.
That's excellent. And I'm just looking to see, do we have a provision for forming subgroups, right? Do you wanna bring that back next month as a actual proposal that we can put on the agenda?
Okay.
Proposal outline for small work groups.
Provisions for, and then penalties if you don't do your work between meetings.
And then what was the other one that you wanted to think about, tribal,
Yeah,
opioid
tribal opioid funds.
funds?
Yep.
Report status or something like that.
Yeah.
You guys can give us a report. And then I did put on their update on the LCO shelter policy on Native Americans. Then we'll have the opioid research update from public health, and I will reach out to Northwoods Tech and see if I can get what happened there. They were all on board to attend, so.
Okay.
Anybody else, any future agenda items? Okay, and, we gotta set the meeting date, and I think we did agree we're gonna do the second Wednesday. Does that work for?
I think this is working for me anyways, this day.
Yeah, I don't know why we ended up on the seventh, but I don't, know. But usually we can do it the
Second
second Wednesday,
Wednesday.
it's always seemed to work pretty well for everybody, right?
I think they're good.
Okay, so we will do the, that'd be October 12th. Actually, 12 o'clock.
Well, I won't be here.
Okay.
Please look up.
All right, and hopefully we can, the other thing that we need to put on is the acceptance of Lieutenant Johnson's
Resignation.
resignation.
And
And then,
We're
vice
gonna have
chair.
to vote on a vice.
Well, we're gonna have to get bylaws changed to say
Yep.
designee technically,
Yep.
right?
No, he was, I think,
Vice chair.
appointed vice chair. of this
I know, but I'm just saying to get the sergeant on, technically don't have to change the bylaws.
No,
Because he is the jail administrator.
Right. But I mean, you could elect anybody to be the vice chair.
So you could get the vice chair position when you come on too, right?
Oh, are we gonna,
Kidding.
you could, that's all possible.
And then vice chair. Anything else?
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
before you adjourn, if I just take a couple minutes, I do want to share a little information. I know Andy mentioned earlier, Lieutenant Johnson did resign effective, August 23rd. And we are posting the position in-house as well as advertising it at large. And we're looking at a deadline of September 23rd for applicants to apply, and then we will hire from there and proceed forward. We do wish Jeff best wishes for his future endeavor, and we're moving forward.
Any possible in-house?
I can't answer that.
Right.
It would, I assume we're going to have some in-house, but we haven't. I think it was just getting posted internally today. And so I'm not certain, and I haven't pursued that, waiting to see who signs up internally. And I don't see anybody volunteering here with me today yet, so we'll see what happens.
No pressure.
Well, just a comment on that.
Oh, good, I'm glad to hear he wasn't just leaving our committee. I was worried that he was
Yeah.
just leaving our committee. I was like, oh no. It's just
Why?
because I threatened him had to be chairperson for a couple of meetings.
I just wanted to comment on that I was sorry to hear that too. From the tribe that he was leaving. And I just thought too, at first it was just from our committee, but
I feel better.
Sorry.
I do feel better.
yeah, he did a good job there.
I
He
wish it was just a committee, truthfully.
Yeah, he's very, very gifted and talented
Yeah.
man, and contributed a lot to this committee as well as over there, and we do miss him.
And he took sincere interest in helping those inmates and the people that
Yeah.
need that support in our community. And you can see that when he carried himself.
Yeah.
And
He was a very
So,
good.
yeah,
person.
yeah,
Our
yeah.
committee.
yeah, and that's important that we have that.
He was elegant.
And so hopefully the person that's stepping in,
Maybe we
Take
can
that
put
over.
him as a, what do you call
Citizen.
it, citizen member.
Maybe I could resign and.
But how many citizen members?
Excuse me, what was the date of the October meeting?
The October meeting is October 12th, the second Wednesday again. At
Okay.
12:00 noon. We're gonna go back to the second Wednesday. I don't know how we ended up, to be honest, this month with the first Wednesday, so.
I think it's
All right, thank you.
that scheduled, then our county committee meetings are based on the time before the county board meeting. And the county board meeting falls, I think, as early as it can fall,
No,
and so that's why.
Yeah, I always thought that those committees that, like today, are always the second
No,
Wednesday.
there's so many days before the board meeting.
right, exactly, they're backwards.
They go backwards there.
Okay.
Before
I'm still
you
adjusting.
adjourn, I also
You're
wanted
fine.
to ask if they're gone now. And sometimes I don't get minutes, but so how many people have we helped with our programming now that we have in place? With the pretrial and everything, the diversion programming?
That was, we should see how many people were in diversion, and I think we've only had, we have one failure, that I think, didn't make it through. diversion, right?
The most recent numbers said diversion cases failed 3 pending sentencing.
Because we had one before and then.
How many were successful then? So it was 13?
How do you, now what is diversion? That is, pre-sentencing, they're waiting for the
Yeah.
goal, but diversion.
Alternative to incarceration.
Yeah. So.
Remember, we used to have 10 that were opposed for diversion, but none were accepted. I think over the first meeting.
That's like on a monitor or something, or you don't have that
Yeah, they can have a
Yeah.
different.
Whatever program they.
fall under.
So we have 8 diversion cases completed, 6 referrals pending, and 11 current ones.
What was our pretrial?
Pretrial cases was 100, we're at 130 as of today.
I mean, pretrial is where we actually shouldn't spend the money.
Right.
I mean, diversion is with helping in the long end, but pretrial is, we're not having people.
Because those are the ones who are sitting there
sitting there
waiting
for
to be
exact-
seen when
Yeah.
actually,
That's right.
they
But there's no
could-
reason
yeah,
to
there's no
think we
reason.
don't
to-
Yeah, I don't know if this is a cumulative number, but I have to ask Justice Point to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pony on that.
Yeah,
give
I
us a
appreciate that.
cumulative.
I was gone for a while, and I'd like to keep an eye on it.
Could we, like, there's areas, different areas, you said that, they could be possibly in like an anklet or whatever. Can we have that information?
Detail?
I think when you're in diversion, though, it's a program, whole thing, so every individual is going to have a different set of things. It may be a lot for one person, it may be minimal for another person, so I don't, there's not any, we can ask Becky next time, but I don't think there's any set criteria that we have.
They
Well,
should
you-
report on how many are on ankle monitors, how many there.
And it's,
Like-
it,
How many are on what?
it is more than just,
Yeah.
an alternative to incarceration. I mean, that's a big realm of a program. I mean, it's very extensive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even when you ask how many people have we successfully
Yeah.
helped or.
Yeah.
Usually the success is even kind of loaded because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
successful today, but what's your time frame for
yeah.
the recidivism word?
I guess, have gone through our program.
Yeah, you can come up with that number.
Really the best we can do, right, for what we're doing.
And we're trying to if your public health, their research update, because they've been collecting a lot of data, because they need to have that
Yeah.
data, so. The big.
Yeah.
From them.
Yeah.
to what we need to talk
Yeah.
about each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
I think it's-
Okay, we're going to adjourn. because we don't want
Thank
to
you
go
very
on.
much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, appreciate that.
So you really want me